Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and I want to talk to you today about the toxins and poisons that naturally occur in many of the foods that we eat and the foods we've been eating for millions of years. We've hybridized, domesticated the foods to be bigger, sweeter, and less poisonous over the years. Tomatoes had solanine, and potatoes had tomatine, lethal poisons that these foods have been hybridized over the years to be bigger and sweeter, to get rid of the poisons and make these foods more edible. Many of the foods that we eat actually still have poisons in them, but we don't know and don't realize that. We make a big case against grains like wheat because of lectins and phytic acids and other anti-nutrients, and we make a case that those are the cause of the gluten intolerance. And as you know, I wrote a book called Eat Wheat, and I really don't believe that it's these phytic acids or these anti-nutrients that make these grains so undigestible. For example, one of the anti-nutrients that is considered to be very difficult to digest and cause many of the digestive issues is phytic acids. Phytic acids are said to block like iron and calcium and phosphorus from getting absorbed. And they say that they block the minerals and they cause nutritional deficiencies. Well, there's really good science to show that people who have a high phytic acids actually have a 41% increased amount of iron in their blood. They have increased bone density as opposed to lack of bone density because of lack of calcium. Those studies have shown that it actually reduces calcium, triglycerides, increases the production of butyric acid in the large intestine, and that's I think the most important part. A lot of these poisons have issues upstream in the small intestine, but when they get into the large intestine, they do amazing things like support the production of a fatty acid called butyric acid, which supports immunity and other beneficial microbes to proliferate. And that's what gluten does, that's what phytic acid does, that's what many of the lectins do. So we have these foods or these constituents in foods that are toxic or poisonous, but in one part of the body, but then studies show they have this other benefit in another part of the body. So my question is, if we really studied all the poisons in foods, would we find that everything we eat is actually dangerous? But if we only look at the part as opposed to the whole, we're going to look at this one chemical is really, really poisonous. But as a whole plant, the body's figured out over millions of years how to figure out how to digest and make use of these foods so they become beneficial. Because early on when we first started evolving, most of the foods were poisonous. Most of the bitter foods were poisonous. We have over 200 different kinds of taste buds for the bitter taste. We have one taste bud for sweet. If it was sweet, it was good. So we hybridized things for sweet, and we tried to figure out what bitter foods were going to make us feel good and which ones would kill us. And that's what happened over the years. And of course, because sweet was something we knew was safe and we like it, we hybridized most of our stuff to be sweeter, 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 sweeter. And clearly, the issue around wheat belly is a sugar belly. Clearly, the issue about Alzheimer's from grains is the high glycemic index of the processed natures of the foods as opposed to the actual grains themselves. And there's an incredible amount of science to back that up. And I've talked a lot about the reasons why that our digestion is broken down because of the processed foods. And if we get the processed foods out and reboot digestion, we can get back to eating grains again in a seasonal way, and the way we were designed to eat it. There's enzymes in the body that actually increase in the fall to eat these grains and beans, like amylase and other enzymes to support healthy digestion that are cyclical in nature. The body goes from one season to the next season to the next season. The microbes change, the enzymes change. We are tied to nature. But we eat other grains 3 times a day for 30 years, overeat this stuff, then of course we have problems. So my point about this article, and in this article, I went into all the different foods and listed all the other toxins in the foods. Like, for example, if you eat about 45 to 50 Brazil nuts, it could cause selenium poisoning, which is a neurotoxin. It's not that much. There are goitrogens in our foods, things that suppress your thyroid. Some of those goitrogens are spinach, cassava, peanuts, soybeans, strawberries, sweet potatoes, peaches, pears, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, canola, cauliflower, mustard greens, and radishes. There's furocoumarins, which are agents that cause photosensitivity on your skin and cause dermatitis, severe dermatitis on your skin, which include all citrus fruits like limes, grapefruit, orange, lemons, bergamot, as well as celery and carrots and parsnips. There are amylase inhibitors which actually block the amylase on wheat and rye and beans like kidney beans. We'll talk about amylase for a second. That's the enzyme that increases in the fall and the winter to help. See, amylase inhibitor on these grains means that the body doesn't actually break down, it inhibits the amylase from breaking down this grain and delivering the sugar into the blood. So these things actually help slow the delivery of the sugar into the blood. We also have more amylase in our body to actually antidote the amylase inhibitors in the fall when these grains are harvested, which is pretty cool. There are other toxins like lectins. We found that lectins are, yeah, I get it. There's lectins in wheat, and there's many studies show that they're really harmful. When you take that one part and say it's harmful, but then you realize there's new studies showing that lectins, when they get into the small intestine, there's studies looking that they might be antidotes for colon cancer, and pharmaceutical companies are looking at the possibility of using that as a drug for colon cancer. So again, when we look at the part, are we looking at the whole? Do we understand what the whole millions of years of genetics? Remember, we haven't been eating wheat for 10,000 years. We've been eating wheat and barley and gluten for 3.4 to 4 million years according to new science. So we can't just say, oh, we don't have the genetics to do that. And even 10,000 years is long enough. I don't want to go on and on and on. There are other agents. I mean, get this. There's anti-B1 thiamine compounds that actually block the body's use and break down the vitamin B1, your thiamine vitamin. Which can cause a host of major concerns like beriberi or vitamin B1 deficiencies. And these are found in fish, crabs, clams, blueberries, black currants, red beets, Brussels sprouts, and red cabbage. Oxalates linked to over 65% of kidney stones. Oxalates block the absorption of numerous nutrients and cause a host of digestive and kidney concerns. Way more toxic than the lectins and then the phytates, but we don't make a big stink of them, but they really do have documented concerns. And they're found in rhubarb, tea, spinach, parsley, asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, collard greens, lettuce, celery, cabbage, cauliflower, turnips, beets, peas, coffee, cocoa, beans, potatoes, berries, turmeric, and carrots. You know, my point is that you take all these foods with toxins in them, and I'm giving you the short list, there's just so much toxicity on this planet in the foods, and we have slowly hybridized and domesticated these foods to have less of these toxins for sure, and that's happened with wheat too, by the way. But the point is, if we took any of these toxins and just investigated one of those, we would be like, oh, this is a toxic food. But we keep taking the part and talking about it as if it's the whole, and it's not. And what I have found in my book, Eat Wheat, is that there are volumes of studies showing that whole grains are so incredibly good for us. But we have overeaten them. We have processed the heck out of them. And the bad fats that in these processed foods that extend shelf life have completely destroyed our ability to digest hard to digest foods again and detoxify. So why don't we just reboot digestive strength, clean out your liver and your gallbladder from all the toxic fats we eat in all these years, get rid of the processed foods, and start eating whole, healthy versions of these foods in season in moderate amounts so we can begin to enjoy some of these foods again. And the reason why that's important is not just because we want to eat wheat again, because not eating wheat isn't going to hurt anybody. It's not an issue. But a poor digestive system that can't digest hard to digest foods like wheat and dairy is a poor detoxification system. We have 400 billion pounds of toxic chemicals in the American environment that dumped in the American environment every single year, 400 billion pounds that we have to digest at some point. There's mercury from the coal mine fired electrical plants that dump mercury on every organic vegetable you can't wash off. And if you can't digest well, you can't digest wheat and dairy today and you once were able, you have a broken down digestive system. You may. And that's linked to a broken down detoxification system, which means that we are now, taking the wheat out of our diet, feeling somewhat better in our digestion, but being vulnerable and exposed to real serious toxins down the road that uptake in our fat cells, into our brain tissue, and cause real problems. So my point is, take the wheat out of your diet if you don't feel good with it. Fine, I get it. Absolutely. If you don't feel good with something, don't eat it. But don't stop there. Let's fix the cause. What we do in America is just constantly just treat the symptoms. And we think that we're good. Here, take this, don't eat that. That doesn't solve the problem in most cases. Generally, people get off wheat, they get off dairy, they feel better for a little while, and then the problems come back. They get off the next thing, meat, and become a vegetarian, a vegan, and a raw foodist. We keep going down the road of taking more and more foods out of the diet. It's the simplest thing in the world to say, don't eat wheat and dairy, all your problems are solved. The problem is I've been in practice for more than 30 years and I watch people do that and their symptoms come back again and again and again. And my job over the years was try to figure out how can I help these people digest better, not about eating wheat or not eating wheat. That's not the point. The point is, can you digest well enough to be a good, healthy digester, deliver foods, assimilate nutrients, and get rid of waste? And if you can't do that, we have real problems down the road. And that's where most people suffer, is in the second half of their life, is when the real problems come. And just taking these foods out of the diet doesn't solve the problem. And that's why I wrote the book called Eat Wheat, which is because I feel so compelled to help people reboot their digestive strength and deal with the real cause. And there's issues. It's not our fault that processed foods, the cooked oils, the fats that they put in our foods are terrible for us. And they have broken down our digestive system, and we can reboot that and get back to being really healthy again and enjoy good fats and good grains and a variety of foods, seasonally appropriate in moderation, that makes real good sense. So I wrote an article about all this, many of them actually, and in this article I talk about all these toxicants in the foods and some of the hybridization that took place on these foods to help us be able to enjoy these foods, and talk about the fact that so many of these foods that we eat today still have many poisons and toxicants in them, yet we eat them. So why don't we take a look at the whole and focus on that and how we can reboot us, as opposed to blaming all the foods that we eat for our digestive and health concerns. In the meantime, I get it. If you don't feel good with it, don't eat it, but let's not stop there. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John. Hi, did you like this video? Do you like our content here at LifeSpa? You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/JohnDouillard right here and get this valuable content every week in your inbox.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.